Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight on Turning a Moment into a Movement. I am J Love. I'm your host. And I also represent the Justice for Gerard Movement. Gerard is the reason why we're here because he was wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't do. Innocent, had no knowledge of the crime, didn't know the people, but he still ended up going to prison. And because of that journey with my son, Gerard, and all the people I met on that journey, we created this platform called Turning a Moment into a Movement. So thank you for joining us today. We're expanding. We're on Instagram Live tonight, trying something new. Welcome, Instagram viewers. Twitter, we're back. I don't know what was going on, but we're back live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So thank you all, you guys, for joining us on all these platforms. Share, please share, because we're doing this because we want to educate our community. We want you guys to know that wrongful convictions didn't happen. And so we come here to advocate for the innocent. Our mission statement is to bring awareness to the wrongful conviction of Gerard and all others who are wrongly convicted, overly sentenced, mentally ill, medically frail in our community, to inspire, organize, and educate all communities about the need to disrupt systems, policies, and patterns of the criminal legal system that leads to wrongful convictions. That is why we do this every week. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us all this year in 2023. And for those who supported us for the Love Gathering, we're going to be back next year, even bigger and better with the Love Gathering. I'm going to bring on our panel, but we got Miss Diane from the Voice of Detroit is back with us tonight. And we're going to end this year with talking about wrongful convictions, talking about what's going on in Wayne County, Michigan, and all across the United States. As we've seen just in this past week, a lot of exonerations been happening this month of December. The ending of 2023 with a lot of people being exonerated and innocent people are coming home. So, and especially Marvin Hayes. Marvina's sister was here with us, I think September, October. And now Marvin, he came home a week or so ago. So welcome home, Marvin Hayes from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I'm going to bring on the panel. We're going to introduce ourselves and then we're going to get going. So first I see Reverend Tia is in the room. Hi, Reverend Tia.
Hello, good evening. Hi, Jay. How you doing tonight? I'm so blessed and so happy to be here. I tell you that because of this platform, because of Gerard, and because of your tenacity to stick to it, I have decided that there's no going back now. Yeah. And so I take from, I just want the viewers to know that on a day-to-day basis, I'm coming from a mental health perspective by trade as a psychologist. So they call it the TLLP until you finish your doctorate. So, but more than that, it is noticing and recognizing that a lot of the people who are wrongfully convicted have been experiencing that. They come from a vulnerable population, many times don't have enough money, and because of what happens not only before, sometimes the law picks on and chooses people who do not have a voice and they don't have enough money to turn things around or to get proper representation. And so, a lot of times these are people who are already traumatized within our whole system of this United States, and so they don't have they're dealing with trauma. They're dealing with a lot of mental health issues themselves sometimes, or being abandoned. Or just economically unable to, have what they need. And so very important that we continue to advocate for justice in all aspects. So whether it's the Choice Zone or Michigan Coalition for Human Rights, or whether I'm with Transforming Love Community or G100 Oneness and Wisdom, no matter what I'm doing, it's empowering, educating, encouraging people to access the divinity, the divine nature within them, and to know that that power within you is the power that's going to make you free. And we are here and we are free today. We're free first in our mind. And we're about to continue that freedom so that in reality, in this space, in this world, all people can be truly free.
Yes. And none of us is free until we're all free.
That's right. Because we're one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend Tia.
Thank you, Jay.
I see Dwayne out here. He looks like he's outside. Dwayne.
Yes, indeed.
Exonerations, girl, look good on you.
For the world.
Dwayne, did you hear me?
Park in New York City.
Right. Dwayne, I said exoneration. I'm great. I said, yes, I'm feeling a lot better. I was saying good. Exoneration looks good on you.
Thank you.
Yes.
It sure feels a lot better.
I know that's right, Dwayne. I was just telling before I started intro that it's been a lot of people being exonerated.
Hey man, how you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah.
You been all right?
You look like you're having fun. Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here. It's kind of cold though, but it's beautiful.
Yes. But thank you, Dwayne. I'm gonna bring in a few other people.
Okay.
Did you want to introduce yourself or say anything?
Yeah, I'm Dwayne Brooks. Wrongfully incarcerated for 35 years for a crime that I didn't commit. in Ohio, and I was in a whole nother state when the crime occurred. I was in New York, and they had no evidence, nobody to say I did a crime except the guy that did it. And we, the evidence came out 33 years later that all the evidence pointed to him, and they withheld it, hid it, suppressed it, whatever you want to call it, and got the conviction on me. They were seeking the death penalty, all the while knowing that I didn't do it because they had the evidence to show that I didn't do it. But still, they sought the death penalty on me. And if the jury had voted for the death penalty, the average from conviction to death sentence being carried out in Ohio was 20 to 22 years, and I would have been dead 13, 15 years ago. And the truth would have never came out. So man has a plan, and Allah, God has a plan. So
Yes.
he's the best of planners, because that's, in their eyes, I was a dead man walking. Even though they didn't get the death penalty, they intended to keep giving me time at the parole board until I died in prison. So I'm a miraculous example for people to never give up.
Yes.
Never give up. Because, I and it was only by the grace and mercy of our Lord that I didn't give up, because it was some dark times, and I never want people to think that, prison is glamorous, or I don't want to seem like I'm glamorizing it, because it's a terrible, horrible environment. It's sick, it's, degrading, and it's not anything that anybody in their right mind would want to experience.
Yes. Yes, Dwayne. And thank you. Thank you. Edward.
And good evening, and welcome home, Dwayne. All praise due to Allah that you are free, and as you say, so congratulations and welcome home, bro.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I have been left for years to think and believe that most people who were actually innocent of crimes that they were in prison for actually had some incriminating factors, and many times those incriminating things kept them from taking and revealing the truth, and for hiding behind those things, they were falsely or wrongfully convicted. But it's becoming apparent that ain't true.
Right.
That these convictions are actually just based upon a bunch of bias, prejudice, incompetency, and corruption. Quite a bit of it. And I was a jailhouse attorney, and I thought I seen quite a bit sitting behind bars with fellow prisoners for 43 and a half years, from the age of 17 until just before my 60th birthday. I thought I seen it all, but even after I took and came home, one of the first jobs that I got after I graduated from the University of Michigan School of Social Work with an MSW, one of the first things that I witnessed after being employed in a conviction, integrity, and expungement unit was some real, some real horrific stuff, where a child's own father take and put them in prison to take and escape his own, threat of imprisonment. And that was one of the first cases, that I worked it on under the supervising eye of the director of the Conviction, Integrity, and Expungement Unit here in Washtenaw County. And, she was gone for her break, and she gave me a few cases to look at immediately, to take and critique and have it ready for her desk when she come back. And one of those cases was a young man, whose father put him in that predicament. But he's home now, and I'm glad that I played a small role in that happening. And there were many other cases to look at. Some of the cases was so troubling. There was so much involvement of so many different witnesses, whether they were law enforcement or non-law enforcement. Some cases kept us from looking at other cases with the thin resources that we had. You know, the unit had just set up, and there were fewer. You know, it was literally two of us. And prior to my getting the job, it was just the director. You know, so but hopefully it's better. There's a need for these conviction integrity units to be properly funded, to be properly staffed, so that they can do good and expeditious work. These people that have funds that love to take and fund nonprofit organizations, they should really consider taking and funding some of these organizations, whether they do it independent of the prosecutor's office or they do it within the prosecutor's office. The office I worked in, we were independent of the prosecutors. There was a wall between us. We was allowed to take and literally take and research cases without any interference with their office. The only problem that we really had was with law enforcement when we would ask them for records we didn't have in the prosecutor's office. So I would encourage funders to be serious about taking and help funding these organizations where there are real integrity and expungement units that are going on in this nation. Take and fund those units and consider other people like myself that came out of prison, put them in those positions. You got a lot of good jailhouse attorneys that are very creative and innovative in taking and doing research and given the proper tools and opportunities, they can do just as good as a job as any trained attorney or investigator, because they have learned to investigate with very little tools available to them. Okay, very little tools. My mentors were all jailhouse attorneys. No one mentored me. Well, I won't say no one, but for the most part, very few people on the other side in the bar, members of the state bar, had anything to do with my education. Mostly I received education from fellow prisoners, and it started with even U.S. vets in the county jail, who in many instances were drug addicted and who was repeated recidivists in and out of county jails. I started learning in the county jail and continued that after I got into prison. And I remind you, when I went into prison, I had a third grade education. I was reading and writing at a remedial level. But when I came out, I went directly into graduate school. And within a less amount of time, a person would have been on parole. I graduated from the leading school of social work in this nation, because that's the type of resilience that we build when we're in prison. It don't necessarily come from what they call rehabilitation. It comes from habilitation, and it comes from prisoners' self-initiated programs. We need to take and talk about that. A lot of times, prisoners can be far better off independent of some of the so-called rehabilitative programs, because most of the time the legislators are disrupting them anyway. They continue to disrupt those rehabilitative programs with their continuous acts of taking and acting, frightening the public about the next super predators, etc. Stripping good time and special good time and educational programs in the prison. They do more disruption of rehabilitation than they do building rehabilitation. So if that's what they want to do, they should just keep all their little Christmas presents and then allow the prisoners to self-initiate and get the hell out of their way. When the prisoners come up with ideas about programs to educate themselves, to better themselves, get your ass out of the way. If you want to play Santa Claus and who been good and who ain't been good every damn month, every 6 months, even after people's been in prison for decades, you're trying to punish them. If that's what you want to do, get the hell out of the way and let them educate themselves, because we can do it. We've seen that over in South Africa. That's what Nelson Mandela and them did. They came out of prison capable of leading a nation. We can do the same damn thing, but for all of this perpetual punishment in this country. But for this perpetual punishment, we can come out the same way that South Africa's human rights leaders did when they came out of prison. They came out of prison with the capability of leading the world. We've seen that Nelson Mandela wasn't just anybody. He was a statesman. There's no one that was equivalent of his type of leadership and thinking when he came out of prison. And we had the same thing in our bars, behind our bars, but for the fact that we keep our damn feet on their neck. Cut it out. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Edward. Yes. Hey, Kevin Hayes. Turn your mic on, Kevin.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening to all. How you doing, J Love, Reverend Tia? Basically who I am, my name is Kevin Hayes, from Brooklyn, New York. I am a victim of the overly incarcerated. I'm also a paralegal, runs a pantry, spoken at several universities. I'm an advocate for prison reform, sentence reform, those that are overly incarcerated, wrongful convictions, and this is basically has been my goal and my mission thus far since I've been home, and that's about it. I was sentenced to 46 and a half years in the feds, did 27 of that, and I'm here, and I've been fighting ever since from day one, from the time I've been home, because I've seen a lot in there too. And Brother Sanders, what you said is right, it's true and exact and right on point. And everything you said, you put all that in a nutshell. That's why they don't want us to vote. That's why they don't want to give us the voting power. So but that's it. That's who I am.
Welcome, Kevin, and thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
So Attorney Matt probably gonna be popping on soon. He's probably with a client. So we're gonna keep it moving. We're gonna bring on our guests, Miss Diane. Greetings, Miss Diane.
Hey, greetings to you, Jay, and everybody else. It's wonderful to hear from, especially the people that have been in prison and have that profound experience, as they mentioned, of the degrading and humiliating conditions in prison, but they were able to persist through decades and develop themselves as fighters, as warriors against mass incarceration and wrongful convictions. I've enjoyed listening.
Yes.
And I'm editor of Voice of Detroit newspaper, which is an online newspaper. And lately we're focused mainly on the issues of prisons and police. I was also, for 10 years, I was also an investigative reporter for the Michigan Citizen newspaper, an African-American owned newspaper that was well known in the community. And I covered prisons, police, the Detroit bankruptcy, just about every issue there was. So, and that's where I got my experience, basically doing articles about the prisons.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Diane. So we can just go right into it. We know this month, we had a lot of exonerations. Marvin Hayes came home. I want to play a video of Marvin coming home. His sister was here earlier in the year, September, midway through, and Marvin came.
Marvin Haynes, he is a free man this morning. Haynes was sentenced to life in prison for the 2004 killing of a man in Minneapolis flower shop. On Monday, a judge signed the order to overturn Haynes' wrongful conviction on the basis of unconstitutional witness identification.
You lost the opportunity to graduate from high school, to attend prom, have relationships, attend weddings and funerals, and spend time with your family around the holidays. I am so deeply sorry for that.
It means so much to me for somebody with that much power to now recognize that I'm innocent and correct it, and I can't even explain what it means to me.
Yes. Welcome home, Marvin. We send you tons of love. And Marvina, who has been fighting on behalf of her brother, she even ran for city council. And they got the news that he was coming home. They moved him, and he came home about a week ago. And he had been incarcerated since the age of 16 years old. So we're just so happy that he's home as well. We're going to bring it on locally and talk about what's going on here in Wayne County, Miss Diane.
Okay, well, there's a couple of cases I wanted to touch on. Of course, people remember from the last show that I was on, the case of Darrell Ewing and Derrico Searcy, who were whose conviction was overturned in the federal court by the chief judge of the U.S. District of Eastern Michigan, Denise Page Hood. Well, it wasn't overturned. It was sent back eventually because Kim Worthy kept appealing no matter what happened, which is her MO. It was sent back to for an evidentiary hearing. And at the end of that evidentiary hearing, Judge Michael Hathaway granted a new trial. Now, Kim Worthy has a practice of never admitting that she's wrong. In this case, they had another man confess, Tyree Washington, numerous times, including to a Michigan State police officer. They had no physical evidence connecting the two to the killing of a young man at Harper and Van Dyke on the east side. But Kim Worthy has insisted all along. Even Judge Hathaway, when he ruled on the case, said that there was very poor. He ruled about juror misconduct, but he said all in all, the case did not have was not a good case. That it did not have enough evidence, really. But Kim Worthy has insisted in that case to force them to have another trial. And so they've been in the process of going through hearings on that. The last hearing, people can read the story on that. That's the current story up on the front page of the Voice of Detroit, where Darrell Ewing is representing himself, and you can listen to him. There's I videotaped the whole hearing, and he's something else to listen to. He's a new warrior for the struggle. Once he gets out, he can't wait to get out because he's battling. He's representing himself right now. And after the hearing on June, I'm getting my months mixed up. After his hearing on December 1st, he has filed a motion for the judge to be dismissed from the case, to recuse himself, because that judge, who is Kiefer Cox, he's been on the bench for a year, but he came directly from the prosecutor's office. He worked under the same prosecutors that engineered the case against Darrell and Derrico, Cam Towns and John Moitola. And for 4 years he was in that office, up until he took the bench practically. He ran for election in November 2022. And he was elected with no opposition because he has the backing of his father, who's a current judge in the circuit court, of Mike Cox, his uncle. People probably remember Mike Cox when he was Attorney General of the state of Michigan. Really had Republicans. That's the whole family. His wife, Mike Cox's wife, was head of the Republican Party in Michigan for some time. And not to say that Republicans, Democrats, there's problems with both of them, but the issue is the standpoint. Their agenda is not for
Miss Diane? Is she froze?
Her video froze.
Okay.
Her video and
Yeah. She's frozen.
Yeah, she froze on my screen.
Yeah, she froze on her eyes too. Yeah, I was reading her article about that. All the Cotts, the Mike Cotts, Laura Cotts, they're all judges, and all of them, the whole family of
the young man that's standing trial, one of the two. I actually was up in Kinross, well, not in Kinross, but URF with him. We actually lived in the same housing unit, and I took the time to spend time with him and tutor him in law. In fact, there were several prisoners I used to try to sit down and get them to learn, but they was always trying to take and manipulate me to get me to actually file their pleadings. And he was one of the few persons that heeded my quest to take and learn. And I will point out to them that if they took down and learned and put their own case aside for a while, that they would then be able to take and do exactly what they were hoping somebody else would do for them. And that was more important than taking and finding somebody to do something for them that they needed to have done. And he was one of the few people that actually heeded my quest. And we used to spend good quality time, in the housing unit, sitting down at the table. I knew quite a bit of particulars of his case. At the time, I was actually telling other fellow prisoners that I didn't want to have anything to do with anybody's case. I was literally at the edge of trying to get out the door myself, and I needed to give my undivided attention to my case. And a lot of them couldn't wrap their head around that. They just thought that, hey, you know something about the law, all that's relevant. You finna go. They was more sure that I was going home than I was. But I'm glad to take and see him. When I seen on the videos that Diane is taking and putting on YouTube and so forth, or Facebook, I'm glad to see that. He calls me too. In fact, we probably had a phone call about maybe 3 or 4 days ago. His spirits are high. He's looking forward to taking and fight with the court. His most recent motion was to take and have the judge to rescue himself from the proceedings, because he recently come out of the prosecutor's office himself, that he actually worked with the actual prosecutor's office, who he's claiming and accusing of misconduct. And he felt that the judge should have disclosed that early on before he was making some of the ruling. I don't know how in close proximity the judge was to his case, to the investigation of his case, knowing those facts. I don't know that, and so I'm not making those claims. I'm just saying that was his last pleadings or argument. If you see the video, you'll see him in court alluding to those facts. But he's doing an excellent job, and I commend him not only for taking and trying to represent himself, but he has a good working relationship with his attorney. And that's very important. If a person want to take and represent themselves, it don't mean that you have to go nuclear on your attorney. Your attorney is your case anyway. Your attorney is only there to assist you. And if that's the road that you wish for your attorney to play, and you wish to be in the first chair and have an attorney in the second chair, then that's your prerogative. And that person is required to assist you with the actual filing of the motions and any other kind of technical assistance you have. That person is supposed to avail themselves to you. And too often attorneys won't take and cooperate with their own clients like that, even though it's their wish that they do that. And that's a very terrible thing for an attorney to do, is to take and disregard their client's right to take and represent themselves. You have a right to attorney, but your right to represent yourself preempts that. It came before the right of attorney, because attorneys haven't always had the right to represent anybody. This country, it started off with the attorney only having the right to represent themselves. And then later they admitted them into a practice where they can take and start representing other people. So, we should take and understand that. So he's doing something that he has a fundamental right to take and do, which is to take and represent himself, and he's doing a good job. And it will be nice, law students and others will come down to the courthouse and observe what is going on. And, is always present to have the public in that space, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, you don't see that often, and he's literally fighting for his life. And why not? If you can do it for nobody can represent you more than you. You know, he knows everything. So I think that's pretty awesome that he's doing that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So while we wait for Miss Diane to come back, I wanted to play another video from another person who was exonerated this week.
This is the moment an Oklahoma man who served the longest wrongful sentence in U.S. history was finally cleared of murder. 71-year-old Glynn Simmons spent 48 years behind bars after he was convicted in 1975 for the murder of a clerk who was shot in the head inside a liquor store and was initially sentenced to the death penalty after a key witness identified him in a lineup. Simmons maintained his innocence throughout, claiming he was in Louisiana at the time of the incident. In July, Oklahoma County District Judge Amy Palumbo ordered a new trial for Simmons, and it was during this trial that the court ruled Simmons to have not committed the crimes for which he was initially imprisoned for, after a key witness later contradicted some of her testimony.
Yes. Have you guys, Kevin, you heard about that particular?
Yeah, it's been on the news. It's been on my news feed. It came up because I have all them prison things on my news feed. And that's just, there's no words for it. Just like Dwayne, the same exact thing. What happened to him is the same exact thing that happened to Dwayne.
Yeah.
And they know you in another state. They hold you know this is the reason why I said the thing about the insurance for the cops. The prosecutors need to be able to get insurance. All of them need to get insurance and drop this absolute immunity. Because this is going too far, because their whole thing is to close the case. It's not about justice. It's not about fair. It's not about right. It's not about wrong. It's about, hey, if we can just close this case, we just throw this guy away, you know, and he can spend the rest of his life in it. If he get out, cool. If he don't, who knows? We figure we done covered it up good enough. And it's just sad in this day and time in America. But then again, look at what's happening around the world. Look at what's happening around the world. So it's really disheartening. It's really disheartening. But welcome home, and may God bless you. And that's why insurance again. And I know people be talking about, oh, the first thing everybody say when somebody get out after being locked up, oh, they're gonna get so much money. Oh, they're gonna get $30,000, $50,000, $100,000. Where he's from? Nebraska? What Dwayne from? What happened when Dwayne got the wrongful conviction in Ohio? You know who's paying for that? The people of Ohio. The people of Ohio. The people in Nebraska is paying for that. This is why. See, when you have immunity, you have impunity. So therefore, there's nothing to stop me from doing whatever the hell I want to do, even though I know what I'm doing is wrong. I ain't got to pay for it anyway. Yeah, so what? Give this guy $40 million. Give this guy $138 million. I ain't got to pay for it. And they keep him on the force, and they continue to do the same thing over and over and over again. But if they drop that absolute immunity and start making them prosecutors, them judges, and them cops have to pay insurance. Because like I said before, they have doctors, you have nurses. They're not trying to really kill their patients, because if they kill their patients, they're not going to get paid. So they try to save their patients' lives. Okay, but guess what they got to do? They got to pay malpractice insurance just in case they kill one of the patients. You got a cop with the thunder of God on his hip, blasting people. Then you have these attorneys who pretty much got the same authority-wise on paperwork to put you away for the rest of your life, and they don't have to pay insurance? No, drop that absolute immunity. Start making them people pay insurance, because when them premiums start going up, and now you're dealing with that bottom line, everybody is stand up and get in line then. Otherwise, as long as the taxpaying citizens keep having to flip the bill for these people, it's never going to change. Nothing's never going to stop. It's just going to be on and on and on. I'm glad the guy's home. Welcome home. God bless you and everything. But this got to give. This really got to give. And this is supposed to be America, the land of the free.
Yeah.
It ain't free for us though. And the thing about it is that, you know, of course, the financial compensation is needed, but you can't. There's no way you can compensate me or that man that just got out. 48 years, 49 years. You know, and this is a thing that, you know, makes me feel like I am fortunate, because whenever you look at your own situation, no matter how bad it is, it could always be worse.
Right.
It could always be worse. And this is a prime example of that. You know what I'm saying? The same almost set of circumstances. He's in another state just like I was, and no evidence, of course. Because anybody that didn't commit a crime and is wrongfully convicted, they had no evidence. In any case that they got overturned for a wrongful conviction, when a person didn't do it, they had no evidence. So that tells you broke the law to obtain the convictions.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. And I'll go a step further than what Kevin was saying. I don't think that insurance should pay it. I think that they should be liable. You know, their bank account should be liable. And if they are found to have withheld evidence or any type of misconduct, they should be financially responsible to help pay whatever the financial reward or award is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way they'll stop doing what they're doing.
Yeah. I like to
if there's no incentive, you know, just, well, I mean, Kevin, you made a valid point. If nothing's coming out of your pocket, nothing's going to happen to you, you don't care.
Exactly. They should have direct deposit on their accounts for the rest of their life, just in case any misconduct comes out while they was in office. They should have direct deposit. As soon as that award or recovery is given, direct deposit right out of their bank account. Wipe them out.
My thing is, think about your mortgage. Think about your mortgage and think about your taxes in all of our states, right? I know people that settled out for $10,000 for a cop slapping them or cop rushing them off $40,000, you know, $100,000, maybe broke a leg. My whole thing is we don't even know how much it is, but we know about the big settlements. Can you imagine how much your taxes would be if we didn't have to pay for the foolishness of these prosecutors, with these DAs, with these cops?
That's right.
Just think about that. Just think about that.
Correct.
Because we hear about the big settlements, but we all know somebody who may have been slapped up by the cop and they made them pay $30,000, or somebody may have been beat up pretty bad. They got $600,000. Okay, those are just a few people we know. What about abroad? What about abroad? And then you put all that together and think about your taxes. Because we paying for that.
Yeah, we're paying for it.
And the taxpayers are none the wiser that they are being abused by these people in office. They're being abused totally.
Exactly. Welcome back, Ms. Diane.
Hello,
Attorney Hugo Matt.
Had a brief interruption on my internet at home here. I went back on my mobile hotspot while it resolves itself. So.
Oh, okay.
So
Edward, he kind of gave us, you know, some talking points on the case. So we're seeing how he also worked with him while being incarcerated, and how he's doing a good job representing himself.
Oh, Darrell, you're talking about Darrell Ewing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You watched the video then. You watched the story, Edward?
You know, him and I was there in the prison together. I'm the one who took and gave him your information, and he started writing you while we was there in prison. But I used to literally sit down with him I had him sit his case aside while we learned some basic principles about law, you know, and they proven to be fruitful. He called me from the county jail. I probably spoke to him about 3 or 4 days ago. You know, he called regular.
Okay. Well, you can actually, as I said earlier, you can actually go on voiceofdetroit.net and listen to him present his case to Judge.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I put some of your videos on LinkedIn.
Okay. Good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I put some of yours on LinkedIn and alerted some of the public to his case.
He was also a student in the jail of my husband, Travis Herndon. Okay. He
right. All of us was up north together with each other.
Right, right.
You know, and, we have been to several. Me and your husband have been to. We have been to several prisons together, probably about 5 or 6.
I know. And the other person actually that's was also a student of Travis's he was known as Slim in the prisons, was Thelonious Searcy, who's an exoneree, who is a perfect example of what Kim Worthy puts people through. He went through, he has a confession in his case by Vincent Smothers, the same man that that confessed to the conviction to the crime where 4 people were killed that Kim Worthy framed up Devontae Sanford for. Kim Worthy and the police. Total frame up. That child was 14 years old when he went to prison for killing 4 adults in a drug house. And there was no physical evidence. To this day, Kim Worthy denies that he's innocent, denies she will not charge the actual perpetrators, Vincent Smothers and his co-perpetrator. Even though he's confessed, the Michigan State Police have validated his confession, did a 117-page report on Devontae's case. Kim Worthy has refused to follow up on that. So Devontae's out there with a conviction without prejudice, meaning it can be brought back. You have now what just happened with Thelonious Searcy. He's on the National Registry of Exonerations. And he fought his case for 17 years in the prisons. And he won after Kim Worthy, as she did in Darrell and Derrico's case, appeals every time, no matter what the judges say at the lower levels, wasting taxpayers' dollars, as people were saying, and outrageous waste of money and time, and using prosecutors that are repeat offenders. In Thelonious Searcy's case, Patrick Muscat was the AP. He was also the AP in Devontae Sanford's case. He was the AP in exoneree Kenneth Nixon's case. He sent a memo to the police in the jail to tell them in Kenneth Nixon's case to interview his cellmates. He recruited the jailhouse snitch responsible for his conviction. But to date, Kim Worthy absolutely refuses to hold him or any other AP responsible. Will not, as they did in Chicago, where they brought charges against 2 prosecutors, took them to trial, will not acknowledge the role of her office and her prosecutors. As far as she's concerned, she's never wrong. Her office is never wrong. She's even covered up for the police involved. There's a case that my husband's been working on where she just deleted in the exonerees. It was in the Marvin Cotton and Anthony Legion case. There was an officer, I forgot his name right now, but anyway, who was responsible for their conviction. He was also responsible in 2 other cases that my husband's been working on. And he only found out about the connection when he read the Marvin Cotton lawsuit filed by Wolf Mueller, that this was the same officer in his 2 cases. Kim Worthy did not put that man's name in her press release. She covers up for the police and for the prosecutors. It's a travesty. And there's no way, as you know, she just let that man continue. Donald Hughes, that's his name. He was responsible for beating up on two young girls in the cases my husband's working on. Well, it was actually one young girl who testified in two murder cases, sent two men to prison, was beat up in the first case, testified to it on the stand. And after that, she was a witness in another case. And the same officer sat at the table with the assistant prosecutor right there when she didn't want to testify then because she was afraid of being getting the shit beat out of her. And but she eventually came. They found her and they made her show up. And but she had to testify knowing that she had already told the court, it's in the trial transcripts, what he had done to her, a 16-year-old girl. And nothing. The prosecutors involved in that, Patrick Muscat and another prosecutor, Tom Drzezinski, were the two prosecutors in those cases. Patrick Muscat never relayed that information to Thomas Drzezinski, although he knew that was generally imputed to the whole prosecutor's office is responsible for things like that. They have the obligation to disclose information like that to other prosecutors. They should be reporting it to Kim Worthy in a general forum there. That officer is, but there's many, many more like him over the history of people in the Department of Corrections, going back to the 80s when Willie Merriweather was beaten and forced to confess, although he didn't really confess what he wanted. He testified that he was the person responsible for the killing to save other younger men that they had framed up for it. He had 5 co-defendants. And, but anyway, there was Ronald Sanders beat the hell out of them. And that's been going on for years. That was the late 80s. And unfortunately, these are black cops, in addition to the problems with the police department in Detroit. Unfortunately, when Coleman Young got rid of stress, he didn't get rid of the police mentality. And actually, he hired a former member of Stress as his bodyguard, who was James Harris, who was responsible for another wrongful conviction I've been writing about Ricky Rimmer. And so anyway, it's a tremendous web of evil, an evil web of conspiracy among the police, the prosecutors, and the players in the criminal justice system. I like what you have on your mission statement, Jay, where you say that this has to be disrupted. This whole network of the police, the prosecutors, the entire justice network, the Court of Appeals, they're outrageous. The Court of Appeals is, most of the time they have to issue in the appeal of right, they have to issue an opinion that relates to the facts. But other than that, they basically just rubber stamp everything that comes through there. And then it gets rubber stamped at the Supreme Court. It used to. The Supreme Court we have now is much better in the state. But anyway.
Yeah, and we also have to disrupt the mentality that we have to keep voting these people back into office.
Right. Yeah.
Because, we could talk about Kim Worthy, but people still vote for her, in droves.
Yeah.
She came close the last time was the first time because she ran a lot of times unopposed, and people still vote for her, still support her. And so it is our duty. We have been through this stuff.
Yes.
To educate our community. That's why we're here. We're not here just to talk to you guys, We're trying to educate because these things are happening in our face every day. And we might be talking about cases that's 20 years old, but they're still happening right today. I mean, Gerard case was under Kim Worthy, and that was 3-4 years ago. So this stuff is still happening because there's no accountability. And accountability has to start with us doing our due diligence to stop voting these same folks into office because we're being lazy.
Well, it's also the machine that puts them in there. Kim Worthy's had the complete support of the Democratic Party in Michigan. She's had the complete support of all the mainstream media. They all endorsed her in the last election, despite Victoria Burton Harris's attempts to show people that she is responsible for more wrongful convictions, for more convictions, period, in Wayne County than the entire state of Michigan. The Wayne County is the second highest in the number of wrongful convictions around the country. And so it's just blatant. The fact that she would not agree that little Devontae Sanford didn't commit those crimes is just, there was a whole article done on her in the Slate magazine calling her an innocence denier. And that's,
I remember that.
Yeah.
My thing is, okay, these people run for election. I get that. They have all these parties backing them. I get that. They got party support. But these people also do town hall meetings. Who is going to the town halls and challenge them and calling them out in the town hall? This is how you do that. And this is how you change. This is how you change public perception and public opinion. So what the Democrats is backing them. How many times we done seen a candidate come out from the gate like a horse, a strong start, and they keep backing them and backing them, but the luggage keep coming in and coming in and coming in, and eventually they have to drop the horse and find a new one to ride off to the finish line. But what I'm saying is we have to start coming out together and challenging them and calling them out in town hall meetings. Hey, didn't you such and such? You was the prosecutor and you did such and such, such and such. Or even like what we do on our social media. I've been doing a lot of posting about this war. I'm just posting and different things about her and putting it on different on platforms and stuff like that, and start holding their feet to the fire. So what? They got a strong backing. That's why the Constitution said we the people. I don't care about all the money and all of this. You can see with the protests that's happening here around the world and in this country, which got a lot of these politicians shaking because of we the people, and we the people are coming together. So what I'm saying is regarding her and her situation, that's what we need to start doing. We the people start pointing that out. And when more people hear it, it's gonna gain traction. Just like that snowball you roll downhill and it eventually turns into an avalanche. And
actually, several of the exonerees and Darrell that are supporting Darrell Ewing, Larry Smith, Devontae Sanford, and Bernard Howard are organizing a forum to be coming up to support Devontae, but also to expose Kim Worthy's role in all these convictions. That'll be coming up on a national level, since most of the exonerees here won't deal with Kim Worthy. They're recruiting people from across the country who've been exonerated. So I'm looking forward to that. They're in the process of organizing it with Darrell's family and Darrell right now.
And then also, I know Michigan Liberation, they're going to be making a powerful move next year too, with the prosecutor forums that they do. I went to Kevin, you did say the town hall meetings. Kim Worthy did have town hall meetings, and I remember going to some in Michigan Liberations. Every time I saw them, they were calling her out at those town hall meetings. So it's being done. We just, we have to all do our part. Welcome, Attorney Matt.
Hey.
Welcome. How is everybody?
Okay, how are you doing?
Good. A little bit late, but here. A little bit late, but
you
here.
Want to introduce yourself, Attorney Matt?
J Love, we well on into the program. People, well, you know what? I feel better. I feel better doing the whole thing. You see Edward laughing. I see Edward laughing. See, But no, but you know what? You know what? I would only do it as if the people demanded it be done. But we well into it. We having a serious discussion.
Hey, what is that just went in your garage, man? Come on, what just went down in the garage, man? Come on with it.
Okay, look here. I'm a servant to the people, man. I got to do it. I got to do what the people say. Look here, Attorney Hugo J. Mack with you, doctor. Proud to be with you today. Had to take care of some business for my people, and my people are not just people of skin color, but people of kin color. You see, because it's not about race. It's about faith and grace, is what it is. Because I'm not satisfied with changing the face of my exploiter from white to black and feel that I'm somehow liberated. Okay, so part of the thing with me that I have taken on this year and that I'm doing more so next year is calling out individuals that ran on I'm for the people and coming to my neighborhood and my community, and then you get in office and I see you anything but for the people. Well, you may be for some of the people, put it that way, but you're not for the people that I represent, that I see. So, here taking care of business to the best of my ability, 46,000 lawyers in the state of Michigan. I'm probably the only one that did not parachute from heaven to grace y'all with his presence, but came up from hell through the blood of God and Jesus Christ to be here today with you. And as long as the Lord give me health and strength, my last breath will be, I object. So we will keep on, that route. So proud to be here, and well, here we go. If you find yourself on Trouble Boulevard, push, pull, tow, drag that hoopity to Mack Street. Mack Street. And don't misread the sign. It does not say free valley parking. It says free alley parking. And when you're there, I want you to dial the Freedom Line, 734-239-3118. The Freedom Line, 734-239-3118. The Freedom Line, 734-239-3118. HMAClaw.com is your hookup. HMAClaw.com is your hookup. HMAClaw.com is your hookup. Now, you've tried to rest. Now, come to the best. And J Love, in order to give you and the audience opportunity to write this information down, I would like y'all to excuse me to the tune of my theme song, Return of the Mac, while I do the boogaloo. Introducing for some and reintroducing other, our newest and more profound dance, the Janus. And no performance would be complete without my co-worker, Reverend T, and I, with our rendition from Pulp Fiction, The Batman. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And J Love, I know there are people out there, J Love, that come to you, put note on your car, stop you on the street, put stuff in your mailbox, say, get him off that show, J Love. He's hurting the show. But you know what, J Love? These people not only talking to you, they talking to me, coming up smiling in my face all the time, wanting to take my place. Damn backstabbers. You see, and so it's a thing for me, J Love. I hope some of them is listening because they be following me on media and all that stuff. But I got a message for them, J Love, for my late cousin Bernie. I ain't scared of none of y'all. So you see, so I want y'all to understand that of me about where I'm coming from. And J Love, I want to tell you this right now.
Okay.
J Love, I want you to know I love this show. But if you should ever think about kicking me off, I can just say 3 artists. 1, Otis Redding. J Love, I've been loving you in the movement too long. Please don't make me stop now. Please, J Love, don't make me stop now. And then the other J Love is from my great friend Morris Day and the Time. J Love, ain't nothing worse than rejection. rather than kick me off the show, I'd feel a little better if you simply just slap my face.
Okay.
You see, J Love. So, and then the other one, you know, J Love and Edward and you know my other brothers on there. I want you to understand. They say men ain't supposed to cry, but J Love, I'm gonna just confess something to you. If you was to kick me off the show, you know what I do, J Love? I just want to go outside in the rain. Now you say, now why is that? I tell you why, because the raindrops would hide my teardrops, and no one would ever know that I'm crying, J Love. I'm crying. Deep down inside, I'm dying. But J Love, I'm a man with my pride, and I want the world to know. So the world outside my tears, I refuse to explain. I just wish it would rain, J Love. Kick me off the show. I just wish it would rain. So I want y'all to know this one thing. J Love, when they ask you, J Love, is that man for real? Is that clown for real? I got a message for her. You damn right I'm for real. I endorse all of this. So look, J Love, I want you to know this self-aggrandizing pronouncement, of which I'm ashamedly present, has been brought to you by Dr. Hugo J. Meck, Esquire, one true king of Russia, Scotland, and Lower Harlem. I love you.
That was our mission.
Welcome, Attorney Matt.
Love to be here.
Hey,
We need that because, yes, Edward.
If I can make a comment, quite a bit has been said, and one of the things I would caution our brothers there in New York that have come home, been recently exonerated, is like here in Michigan. One thing I'll give to Kim Worthy is she has her office have released probably probably just second to none in terms of the number of people that are coming out. And I feared that when they got Valerie Newman from the State Appellate Defender's Office, that they was going to literally put on the sheriff. And I really feared that because she's an excellent attorney. But instead, she has went in there and made a difference in terms of the number of cases that she'd have recommended and have been exonerated or at least released. And that's to, you know, her office credit. And I think we should take and recognize that. But I think the real problem there is right now is that there's no policy. It's one thing to take and say, there's something went wrong here, and just releasing that large number of people is, I believe that office is abrogating its responsibility in taking and coming forth to the state legislature and others and saying that here are some things that need to be done so this doesn't happen in the future. And so maybe I'm thinking too much of public officials to believe that they will be responsible themselves and do something like that. But at least the exonerees themselves, look, is more, you have a greater obligation to others who are equally and similarly situated like you were, that's still there in prison. You got an obligation to them, not to just simply take and show up in front of microphones, have people to parade you around as exonerees, etc., but to take and take every opportunity you can to confer with others in regards of policies and advocate for policies going forward. Some of these very same prosecutors that have released it, you guys, prior to taking and releasing you, they went to the state legislative bodies and they literally helped create the laws that you're now fighting to get compensation for. They took and made sure that you couldn't be compensated. They made sure that you couldn't sue them, that you couldn't sue the officers. So you guys got to go back to the state legislators and rewrite those laws so you can be properly compensated, so that attorneys can be encouraged to take on these cases, knowing that after having spent some time, decades, and taking and advocating for you guys, that at the end of that, they will be able to take and be compensated for their rightful hard work. Right now, you have attorneys.
Ed, can I jump in here a minute, please, regarding Kim Worthy? And since you're a juvenile lifer, have you examined her role in the juvenile life situation. I covered that when she was with, when the families were advocating the Second Chance Coalition in 2006, around that area. I did numerous stories on the Second Chance Coalition. Kim Worthy came to the legislature twice and argued against any change in the juvenile lifer laws. She has continued to keep juvenile lifers locked up. She refused to recommend that they be that the remaining juvenile lifers, over 50 juvenile lifers, be resentenced to a term of years. She does not support juvenile life resentencing under Miller versus Alabama and Montgomery versus Louisiana. In fact, she and Bill Schuette were the first people to file an amicus brief with the Supreme Court to stop making Miller versus Alabama retroactive. That has to be looked at in terms of what's really going on there in that office.
I'm not unaware of any of those things. I've served 43 and a half years.
I know.
I didn't do it by giving my voice or my ears or my faculties to anybody else. I was aware of who support me, who oppose me, and those who are equally and similarly situated as me. I take in organized meetings all around this country. I'm presently involved in research at the University of Michigan, studying every case in the city of Detroit and Wayne County in terms of how those cases were litigated in the social environment. So there's a professor right now that is teaching a class at the University of Michigan, what is called a history lab, and I'm consulting with that attorney in regards to that work. And that attorney is also taking and providing that information to the state appellate defender's office. The senator, the state senator that introduced it, the bill here to take and provide for relief, I personally asked him to introduce that bill. I introduced him to a collision of peoples that support that bill. So I'm very much aware, of my circumstances, but my point is still the same.
This is not meant as anything against you, Ed. It was meant against Kim Worthy.
Yeah, it's not about personality.
Clear on Kim Worthy here.
I try to stay focused. On policies. Okay, peoples will come and go, but if you still got the same damn policy, you got the same policy. Okay, so my concern is that there need to be policies. Okay,
I agree with
if you have the policy, Kim Worthy ain't the one that take and decide whether or not they be compensated. No prosecutor can take and decide that until and unless they go to the legislator. You really made my point. If somebody is going to the legislator and asking the legislator to enact a particular law, a statute to do a thing, you need to do the same thing. You need to go to that legislator and say, no, you need to take and make this fair. You need to take and put some levers in here that will hold people accountable, that will cause persons to be compensated for this. You don't look to, our democracy isn't built upon the next person that comes into office after 4 years. We can't live like that where we continuously have different governments every 4 or 5 years. We may have different people who execute those policies, but we got to have good policies. We got to have good policies, and we don't have that. Okay, and that's what I'm saying.
We don't have no policies, and you're right. I think
we need good policies, whether it's in Detroit or New York, whether it's in Boston or LA, or in Chicago. We need good policies. I'm not finna run around and have personality fights. Okay, I can love a frog, I can love a bulldog, but if he got a policy that all he gonna do is smell my leg when I walk up, I'm good. As long as he don't chew it off, I'm good. We got a policy. Don't chew my damn leg. Don't piss on my leg. You can sniff on it all you want to. Do all the investigative work you want to, but let's have a policy. Don't bite me on my damn leg. And that's what we got. We got a bunch of people that are in positions of authority, and they have policies and laws that don't serve us. A lot of us want to run back to and elect Clinton wife as the first woman president of the United States, where she was the one that referred to us kids as super predators. Okay, she was the one that referred to us as super predators. But I'm more concerned about the policy that her and her husband left in office than I am of running around the country and trying to tear down their personality. Okay, I'm not into a personality contest.
It's not a personality contest that we're talking
about.
We're talking about a perpetrator here.
Right, but the policies is good, but in everything he's saying is right about the policy, but policy is nothing without politics, and you can have the best policy in the world, like that George Floyd bill. Mm-hmm. This is why it's important to see who we put in those offices. This is why I'm saying, like, go to the town halls. It doesn't matter whether it's the prosecutor or whether it's the state legislator or federal legislator. You can have the best policies in the world, but if you can't get those policies passed and implemented, then you really have nothing. So therefore, we can have great policies, but we're going to have to really get out front politically and get the right people in office that we can pass through and implement. That's to sign off and implement these policies. And once we get, like he mentioned a good thing. Okay, we take the policy. Well, the prosecutor is going to be held accountable. We take the policy, but it's so much that they can and can't do with this unlawfully, and we're going to take that policy, and now we're going to take it up there, and we may have strong people, but if they're not the ones that's in power, if the knuckleheads is up there in power, then that policy doesn't mean nothing. Like a good example, again, that George Floyd bill is outstanding, and it's another bill, similar bill that's up there in Congress, and it's all the way down to the voting bill. Why we is subjected to having to constantly get this thing changed because we don't have the right politicians up there. We have to force them. We have to take the policy's good, everything's good, money, but we really gonna have to get out here and become more proactive with our elected officials, and that starts with what we're doing right now. It starts with awareness and having a track record. Because one thing about that prosecutor is, like I always said, they aren't nothing but a bunch of damn bureaucrats. And one day y'all gonna look up and y'all gonna see that lady running for public office somewhere, bragging about how she locked up so many people in Michigan and did such and such, such and such. Clinton did it. I'm tough on crime. The biggest drug dealer in Arkansas you could ever want, nationwide, you could ever want to meet. Everybody else came in there and they did it. I'm tough. I'm this. Rudolph Giuliani had a 98% conviction rate, but they don't tell you that the majority of his convictions was overturned for prosecutorial misconduct. So what I'm saying is we also have to get these elected officials in there who will then begin to vote on our policies. Classic example. Look at the war that's going on right now over there in Israel and with the Pakistan. Why U.S. won't even call for a legal ceasefire? It's because Netanyahu got their guys over here who's got money and got their hands in these politicians' backs, where they're saying, well, the president too, they're not really trying to do nothing. This is how we have to be.
It's also the case that Israel could not stand against Gaza the way they are without billions of dollars in U.S. funding of all those weapons, the planes, the bombs that they're sending down to kill 20,000 Palestinians, to starve over 500,000 Palestinians in Gaza. All of that comes from our country, from our tax dollars
Right.
that are raining, those bombs raining down are financed by us. And it's a travesty, and Biden needs to stop it. All he has to do to get a ceasefire is to tell Israel he's cutting off the aid.
But that's what happened. That goes back to what Brother Sanders was saying. It's because they took the time to get the politicians that they wanted up in here to implement their policy. So now all that we're paying, the taxpayers is flipping the bill for this. This is why it's so important.
Yeah, that's a U.S. policy that's long-standing, a long-standing U.S. policy.
Right.
And, but we can go through all the personalities, but that's a long-standing U.S. policy. And the only thing I'm saying is, I even learned from Elijah Muhammad. You know, even though he may have called people's devils, blue-eyed, blonde-haired devils, he also took and told his following that you should be able to take and say thank you or omit something good about a person when they do something. And so I'm saying that large number of exonerees or people who have been released from prison, these are guys I served time with. Okay, I didn't meet them in the newspaper. I didn't meet them at a rally. These are guys that I lived with in prison. Okay, not for a day, for 2 days or 3 days, but these are guys, some of them that I literally spent time like 20 years in prison or more. Okay, so nobody had to lecture me about whether or not I know their situation. You know, kids that I grew up with that we went to prison together at 17, 14 and 15 and 16 years old. No one had to ask me, oh, do you know about this? You're damn right I know about this. I know about their lives, and I know about the horrific situation and circumstances that they lived under. But I'm not going to spend my time talking about personality. I'm concerned about the laws that are used to keep them there. I'm talking about the policies and so forth that create perpetual punishment, that even after coming home from prison, they are still referring to this population as child murderers, when in fact most of the children in this state and in the United States that was convicted for homicide and sentenced to die in prison were actually aider and abettors. Okay? And in prison, they call that a damn generic. They say you're a generic killer. You ain't killed nobody. You just happen to been there. Okay? The large population of juvenile lifers represent children who was just there. Okay, even where they played a role, their role wasn't that damn significant. You definitely ain't that significant as a killer if you didn't pull the trigger. Many times there's one person dead, one shot fired, 2 and 3 children are sentenced to prison. That's the reality. Now we have over 1,000 children, former children. And remember, they former children. There's no such thing as calling me a juvenile lifer. I'm an adult. I'm over 60 years old. Okay. There's over 1,000 former children that have been released in this country. Their recidivism rate is like barely over 1%. Here in Michigan, it's barely 1%.
That's right.
And we're talking about parole violators. So even though the news media and everybody else is still referring to them as child killers, when they should be referring to them as an example of success, because this is a population of people we all know about their adverse childhood experience. But we are not talking about their resilience, because when you talk about their ability to come back home after having spent all of their adult lives incarcerated and to re-enter back into society, and they don't look nothing like the normal rate of recidivism in this country.
Right.
They have 1%. That's what you call success. Right. Put it on the headlines like you take and put the headlines and call them child murderers. Put on the headlines that we now have success, and then take and say, this is what we need to emulate. This is what we need to take and model. But we're not doing that because we still find profit in this. And if we pay attention, to what's going on, as opposed to just fighting each other about what doesn't really matter, we'll be saying this. Pay attention to the success. Look at their reentry. And no reentry looked the same. No reentry looked the same. And here you're talking about people who were children. They were children when they went to prison.
That's right.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. And they spent 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in prison. And they come out and they have a better interest, re-entry back into society than you see adults who went to prison as adults and come back into society as adults. We're talking about people who didn't have bank accounts. We're talking about people who never paid a damn bill. Okay, we're talking about people who were dependent on their parents and their grandparents and their aunts and uncles and cousins to direct them every day in their lives. They have re-entered back into society and they are demonstrating more social responsibility, personal and social responsibility than anybody. Why don't you call that success? Why don't you call that success? You have called them child murderers. They have demonstrated, yes, they lived it with adverse childhood experience and they came out with resilience even after they have been incarcerated and you denied them rehabilitative programs because they were put in prison to die by incarceration. So your tax dollars didn't go for them. They had to figure out how to come up with their own programs and better themselves. They found their own saviors in themselves, okay? And they're out here demonstrating that. And I'll be damned if I be stuck in the woods hiding or arguing behind different personalities. I'm concerned about this population and other populations in prison that are not able to take and have savings and bank accounts while they're incarcerated, and they come back out and every damn dollar they make represent a damn penny. And you wonder why they're still sticking up when they come back out of prison. And you allow everybody from a damn car dealer to a landlord charge exorbitant interest rates for every damn dollar they make. I'm concerned about those damn policies. You wonder why they don't have a credit score. They don't have a credit history, but they're spending money while they're in prison. They're spending money on things that we don't even spend money on. They're making long distance telephone calls while they are sitting in a local jail. Okay? They are sitting in a local jail and spending $20 for a local damn telephone call. And they're taking and buying clothes and appliances from people who prison officials anoint as their vendors. And then they come out, they'll have no credit. They have no credit history to show for the money that they done spent while they were in prison. And that got to stop. We got to quit using the excuse, oh, they will manipulate people and they won't pay their loan. We got a thing that's called personal credit, where you get security credit, where you get credit on your own damn money. You build your own damn credit score, your own credit history. There's no reason that we shouldn't allow prisoners to have that. Not letting them have that, they return home destined to poverty because they do not have any kind of financial history. That's what I'm concerned with. I'm more concerned with that than going after anybody's personality. I want the Attorney General of the state of Michigan to take and file suit against the damn state, saying that, hey, you're responsible for creating recidivism. You're responsible for poverty in this state with the number of people we got returning back from prison, and they don't have any kind of financial literacy. They haven't been able to maintain savings and checking accounts. They don't even get money on their Social Security. So if I'm making 10 cents a day or 13 cents a day for the labor that I do in prison, there's nothing that went towards my Social Security. So if I've done that for 20 or 30 years and returned back to society, and you take and tell me I don't have nothing in my Social Security, and you want to put me on welfare, I don't have to be on welfare. What happened to my damn Social Security? What happened to my Social Security? Even if you didn't give me the wage I should have my Social Security number. I should have the credit for the labor that I put in, so I can retire once I come home. And the reason it isn't, that's why that damn 13th Amendment exists. Okay, it didn't exist. We shouldn't look at the 13th Amendment in a vacuum. It happened after a damn civil war. It happened after a civil war, and that was the condition of those people that wanted their damn slaves. They said that, hey, well, this is the condition of us quitting this damn war. That if they take and commit a damn crime, if they steal my chicken, they said we can then take and put them back in slavery. That's why we still have this damn prison industrial complex, is because of that. So if we really gonna take and fight about civil and human rights, there's fights that we should have done decades ago. We should have long gotten rid of the damn 13th Amendment. Here we are just beginning to wake up to pull down statues of federal generals and so forth, Confederate generals and army figures. But we still don't take and realize we need to pull down those images of white supremacy in our neighborhoods. We got statues that look like your damn slave master proposing to be God. You ain't got the sense to pull it down. Pull that damn thing down. I grew up in Detroit, and there was a damn statue that sit right there on Chicago and Linwood. Okay, during the 1967 riot, it got painted black. It got painted black. Suspects, maybe it was the Muslims, maybe it was the Shrine of the Madonna, maybe it was the Christians down there in Reverend Franklin's church, but thank God somebody painted the damn thing black. Okay, those are the kind of policies that I'm concerned about. I ain't worried about no damn personality, but if we do go for a personality, paint that damn white statue black. Okay, let it reflect what my mama looked like. Paint that broad black. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Miss
Thanks,
Diane.
Edward. I was just gonna chime in real quick. That's incredible, because that's where we need to start. I always say you start within your community. And I like that you brought that up about that statue. That was a statue of what they call Saint Martin Martin de Porres, who was a saint, and he was an African saint. And so yes, they painted him black, and even more than that, the church did not repaint it because he was a black man. And so these are, when you become conscious of what is true, and I always say that truth always ascends the illusions that are out here. When you know what is true, and for that area at that time, then the youth were able to stand and have better image of who they were. It was an outstanding school that produced a lot of athletes, but scholar athletes, who were able to attend University of Michigan and graduate, who could attend other schools, not just University of Michigan, but other universities, and were high in academics. And so that's one area. And when we look at that, we have to look at the whole picture, which is why Diane is stressing, okay, yeah, we got to call people out. And then, yes, we gotta definitely key in on policy, because if it's not written, everything is subjective. If it is not written, everything is subjective. And what has been happening is that throughout, the history of the United States, especially to vulnerable populations, the verdict is subjectively, it comes about because, well, like I always say, they build the case, but it is subjective, that is built upon people's perceptions before they even got in the courtroom, before anybody even presented anything. And when you look at wrongful convictions and all the different ways where the prosecuting attorney does participate, and in conjunction with police, it is just unfathomable. And And then fast forward to today, and you look at how the United States came back. And I really need us to understand that it is written, the United States is unwavering in its commitment to Israel's security and regional stability. It's written that it has an unwavering commitment. It doesn't say that the United States government has an unwavering commitment to its citizens. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that it has an unwavering commitment to helping people who are hungry or who are in poverty. It doesn't say that. You know, it doesn't have an unwavering commitment to justice. That's not a known, that, you know, that's not in there, you know. But we got to look at what verbiage is out here, what has been true, and then look at, you know, line up the facts that you know, since the free trade agreement in 1985, which really increased the amount of money going out to Israel, 49 billion they expect. Having the economic allies with trade with the two countries anyway, it's like 50 billion annually. We have given 260 billion in combined military and economic relief since World War II, with 10 billion more contributions almost annually. And so when we look at this, you know, we got to really start looking at the numbers and where United States puts their money. That's where the heart is. That's where that's where the love is. Okay. Now we got to turn this around and love ourselves enough to find out who is for the people, who is for justice, who is for helping turn our communities around. Because there have been so many important points, you know, when you talk about not having rehabilitation, even in prison, not having the proper kind of mental health services, and yet they still line them up for medications every single day. Pick an area. I'm talking to the listeners and the viewers. Just pick an area and stand on it. Go ahead, Diane.
Diane, I wanted to touch on Ray Gray.
Yes. It just happened in the last few days in Oklahoma that the longest serving exoneree in the country, Glenn Simmons, was finally formally declared innocent and released after spending since 1974. He's the longest serving exoneree now. But a key issue in his case was whether he was innocent or not, because he couldn't get compensated unless he was actually innocent from the state. And that's actually the case in Michigan too, with WICA, with the Wrongful Incarceration Act. And so what I wanted to point out about Ray Gray, who's not one of the exonerees, because of the fact that Kim Worthy, he spent almost 50 years in prison. He had all sorts of publicity from Bill Proctor and the news channel that Bill Proctor worked for, and the Innocence Project Bill Proctor's been working with since then, that he did not commit the murder in the chaos corridor that he was convicted of, that he was not on the scene. In fact, the actual killer wrote an affidavit saying he was not there. The woman who rented the apartment wrote an affidavit saying she was not there, that he was not there, Ray Gray was not there. And it's been known for decades, really, that Ray, who has now become an accomplished artist. Anyway, to get to the point, what Kim Worthy and her prosecutors did in his case, they forced that man to plead nolo contendere to second-degree murder in the case. I watched the video of the court hearing, they claimed that there's still one witness that said that she still believes he was the one that did it. Now, that witness did not testify at the court hearing. They did not have a statement from her at the court hearing. They did not mention the other two witnesses. They acted like that witness that witness was the only witness. That's not true. Bill Proctor and everybody that supported Ray Gray knows that, if they know the history of his case. And that's a travesty. It's a situation, again, where the issue of innocence is being ignored by the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office in so many cases, including that of Devontae Sanford. And in this is a groundbreaking exoneration in Oklahoma, where they actually went to court. He filed a motion in court to be declared innocent on top of whatever legalities the prosecution wanted to use to free him. The prosecution there did not say he was innocent. They did not agree he was innocent. Kim Worthy is careful to say that about most of the exonerees in her press releases, that this is not a case of actual innocence. This is a case of legal problems. You know, the court, there was a jailhouse snitch, of course, recruited by her prosecutor, Patrick Muscat, in Kenneth Nixon's case, and other people, you know, and other factors, but will not let people have that declaration of innocence when they go to the state, which they have to get compensated under the state WICA program. So that's one reason we wanted to bring up the case of Ray Gray. That's a travesty. That man, the only reason he agreed to that, to do that, his wife was very ill. His wife of many years. He met her in prison. She was an art teacher. He became a world famous, accomplished artist under her tutelage, and they ended up marrying. And she was very ill. And that's the main reason that he agreed to do that. Now he is out there. He's not considered an exoneree. He's considered a person that pled guilty to second-degree murder. You can imagine how that affects his life now. Fortunately, he has his art. But go ahead.
There was
Jay.
a national movement behind him. I know Sean King and a lot of people were trying to get the governor to, exonerate him or get him out on clemency. So it was a big move behind him to get him out of there. I also, go ahead, Edward.
I didn't mean to disrupt you while you were speaking, but that's one of the points that I'm trying to stress in regards. And I know you hold people accountable that has committed wrong, and this is what I'm trying to advocate for. In regards to like some of the things that Diane was pointing out, some of the different type of circumstances when the guys are coming home, they are not necessarily declaring them to actually be innocent. They're saying that, hey, and this is what these motions allow if the conviction didn't have integrity, okay, and that's the name of the unit, integrity. It doesn't necessarily, we refer to them as innocent clinics, but actually most of these cases that they're overturning because the cases, the investigations and so forth didn't have integrity, and they overturn them. But for us as citizens, we had a right to a trial that had integrity, where 12 members of our peers supposed to been able to judge whether or not we were innocent or guilty, and they supposed to been able to do that based upon a fair presentation of the evidence. And if they haven't been given that evidence, then we are innocent. We are innocent if a juror of our peers didn't find us guilty based upon credible evidence, and the prosecutor's office is those who submitted this. And this is why I'm saying about policy, we have given them the advantage. They are allowed to take at the present, define what innocence is. innocence isn't what they say it is. You know, we live in a democracy, and one of the basic principles of a democracy is that whatever rights we don't give to the government, we retain or reserve for ourselves. And we have to take and claim that we didn't give them the ultimate authority to define what innocent is. In these juvenile lifer cases, the United States Supreme Court said that those children that have been convicted for first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, they said that sentence, not the conviction, but they said that judgment, determination that these children can know they irreversibly corrupt. They said children are innocent of that kind of decision. You know, they said to take and make that kind of pronouncement on a child that was in a transition, a period of transition. That's one thing we all know that's going on with a child. A child is in a position of transition. So who are you to take and say what the end of that transition would look like, what the final destination would look like? You pretending to take and have providence that belong to God. And so the U.S. Supreme Court took and say, no. Most of the children are innocent of that type of pronouncement. So they said, we don't prohibit the sentence itself, but if you make it mandatory, that's prohibited. You got to go back and use some discretion and look at each one of these cases individually. And this is where the court ordered these. So we're talking about that's a form of innocence. We are recognizing the innocence of children, that when they commit an offense, what it means in terms of their development. Well, we used to taking and making quick judgments in a court of law. But in this instance, the U.S. Supreme Court say, no, you have to go back and take a second look. This is what the basis of this legislation that we're advocating for second chance or second look. Michigan once had a law like that. We had a law like that at the end of the 1800s, and by the beginning of the 1900s, we took and got rid of it under a previous constitution. But we once had a law like that where judges were able to take and call a person back, or the person was able to petition the court and say that, hey, I changed, and you should take and reconsider the judgment you pronounced over me. And the judge was able to take and look at that. So we are now saying that, hey, we want to go back to this early history in Michigan. And rightfully so. You know, Michigan has always been a progressive state in terms of its policies, in terms of its constitutional amendment. It's only in recent years that we done had this, where we've been abolishing all of these progressive laws, from prohibiting capital punishment, prohibiting, not being able to define the difference between unarmed robbery and armed robbery, or larceny from a robbery and from an armed robbery. And we done away with that. We done start going away from the statutory laws and putting them, common law, and putting them into statutes and making grades and saying that, hey, a larceny isn't the same damn thing as an armed robbery. Okay. But at one time we used to do that. You can be home for stealing a damn horse. Okay. That wasn't an armed robbery. It was a damn horse. And we were taking human lives for that. And this is where we at, the way we treat children today. And this is the way we define innocence. We consider the people in the United States that are in prison, that has been convicted, we say they're guilty. When 97% of the people in the United States, anywhere between a low 88% and a high 97% of the prison population are found guilty in the United States by guilty plea. By guilty plea. We're talking about the whole United States. Where's the guilt? If you believe in your jury system, why don't we have that jury system? How could you brag and boast that we have the best jury system in the world, and it's the least judicial institution that we put to test? Do you know the largest number of populations that actually take and stand trial? It's kids. It's the children. When you put them in the adult system, they say, I want to go home. When the prosecutors say, hey, we got a bargain, the kids say, I don't do that. The kids say, I don't do that. Come with 12. It's the adults that they can say, give me the plea. And when an adult is arrested with a child, they take and say the kid done it. And the prosecutor abides it. The prosecutor abides it. We need a policy to say that adult can't do that. Adult can't take and turn on his child co-defendant because of the disadvantage. There's a disadvantage in taking and allowing an adult as a co-defendant of a child to take and plead guilty and then put the blame on the child. We should have a policy that say that a prosecutor cannot do that. Okay? Yeah. These are the central things we haven't even touched on. And we need to take and deal with these things. We need to take and say that, yes, you can take and charge both a principal and an aider and abettor. But you charge the aider and abettor under the aider and abetting statute if the person is an aider and abettor. Because when you charge that person under the murder statute, you deny that person an opportunity for parole. You deny that person an opportunity for a pretrial bail because you charge them with first-degree murder instead of charging them with aiding and abetting. These are the principles that need to come out of here. I'd rather and debate and talk about things like that than to be running at the personalities. We can do I'm not saying that we don't hold people accountable that's in office, that's doing things. Sure, I don't want Donald Trump in office. I don't want any kind of personality like that. If there's a personality there, there's no character there, you know, but somehow somebody find a character there, and see, they would debate that. And imagine how much energy we would spend debating that. And it's for naught. It's for naught. You know,
that's why
be talking.
That's why when we come on, that's why when we talk in the mission statement, we say we come here to disrupt and dismantle. That's our mission, to disrupt, not to keep the status quo or the things that are still going that is not working for us. And that's why we have to, all of us have to take a responsibility to say, hey, I must educate myself. I must get more involved because these things are affecting you, just like Kevin, you brought up earlier. You know, when somebody get $40 million, we're the taxpayers, we the people, are the ones who are paying these bills. We the people are the ones is when you said like when a police officer break an arm or break a leg, they're not paying for that out of their pocket. We're paying for that out of our pockets. So it behooves our pockets. So it behooves us to do our due diligence. And not, you know, I get, you know, we're not about a personality, but we have to be about educating ourselves so we can see beyond the personalities. And so we can understand what policies need to be made. And so we can get the right people in office that's going to push the policy. And that's going to make sure the policy is going to be in place for us to create new laws so we cannot have all these children in adult prisons and all of these innocent people who end up in these situations of being wrongfully convicted. Just like Dwayne, we're talking about, you know, in a whole nother state that's wrongfully convicted. So I think for 2024, we need to be more focused on not only policy, but also educating ourselves to know what's really going on out here and not just rely on 2, 4, and 7, but really get involved because they're counting on you. They're counting on you not to know. They want you to sit back and not
be educated before we create any kind of policy. We have to be we have to be educated, you know. And
right.
This population of people who the state is acknowledging the conviction and sentence, irregardless of the semantics of whether or not they are actually innocent or There was no integrity in their conviction. These people should be given immediate, some type of immediate safety net. They should have some type. Their medical insurance should be secured. Their housing should be secured. Basic transportation and means of eating, things of that nature should be immediately secured. You know, we shouldn't. We give more to immigrants than we do to citizens who have been harmed and displaced. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this for immigrants. We should. But I'm saying just like we would take and give aid and assistance to immigrants who are coming to our country from other countries for things that are going on in their country that's turbulent. Well, something went on in our country. We locked up an innocent person. We took an innocent person's liberty, or we placed someone in confinement before a jury had a proper chance of actually judging them. We should value that. If we are valuing democracy, our democracy should include this population. But we don't put so much harm, so much propaganda around convicting and sentencing people that we no longer see a person once the person become involved with the criminal justice system. We no longer see their humanity. That even after we take and say they're wrongfully convicted or that they're innocent, we don't even take and give them the basic necessities of taking and saying that, hey, I apologize, you know, that I'm sorry. We're going to right this matter. Instead, we begin to take and heap up additional trauma on them. You want to battle, but not with this war.
Yeah, Mr. Simmons, who just came home after 48 years. Nothing. Like, it seemed like, hey, he was wrongfully convicted. Where's his house? Where's his grocery? Where's his car? Where's his bank account filled up? Where's his health insurance? You know, after 48 years, like, hey, we made a mistake and we're going to send you home. But I wanted to play this before we leave tonight as well, of the Boston mayor offering an apology to two gentlemen who were wrongfully convicted of a murder of a woman whose husband who really actually murdered her.
On behalf of the Boston Police Department, the mayor's office, and the entire city of Boston, I want to say to Mr. Swanson and Mr. Bennett, the entire Bennett family, and Boston's entire Black community, I am so sorry for what you endured.
Got that.
I am so sorry for the pain that you have carried for so many years. What was done to you was unjust, unfair, racist, and wrong.
Say it again.
And this apology is long overdue.
Way too overdue.
To every Black resident, I am sorry not only for the abuse our city enacted, but for the beliefs and the bias that brought them to bear in the first place.
Yes. So
that came from a woman of color, you know. That came from we haven't witnessed that type of humility from our European or Caucasian brothers and sisters. That came from an Asian woman that has a history, you know, whether she born here or immigrated here. You can see her. You can see her ancestry there. Okay, a person of color. Our white Americans don't have that. Okay, they don't have that. That's why we haven't had the racial healing that we need in this nation. We don't have right now. We are not where South Africa was after they took and decided to dismantle apartheid, where we go into this racial reconciliation. We are not there. That's a person that's capable of doing that, you know, and that's to be respected. Is another person of color, and believe me, she done earned the wrath of a none of people of color. So I commend her for her courageousness.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is going to be our last show for 2023. And I mean, we took in a lot of stuff tonight, but we have so much. And although we see movement, right? But we have lots of work to do. And so we are just hoping that something we said this year will engage you into movement and to work, because there's so much stuff to do, and it's so much that we have to educate each other on. But we're committed to the cause, and we're going to be back here next year. Attorney Matt.
My turn.
Yes. Reverend Tia had to go and Miss Diane had to go, but Attorney Matt, yes, it is your turn.
Look here. You know what? I feel like the kid waiting in line to get into the show, and when I get there, the damn show is over. And so what I'm saying is, I'd have waited in line. You, Edward, Kevin, Dwayne, Tia. You done said all this stuff I was gonna say. Hey, look here. So I'm here in time just for the closing credits. Hey, but I'm no hater. I'm a congratulator, wannabe participator. So I say God bless y'all. I love y'all. You know, the blood of Christ, you know, and freedom and justice. So y'all be blessed. I pray over y'all, and, you know, keep on with it, because we got a lot of work to do. But you know what? We here doing it. No matter what kind of crap, I use a metaphor, something, what I really want to say, no matter what kind of crap they put at us, you notice we still here. Edward spent 40 some odd years up in there. You know, Kevin, how many years you spent up in there?
27.
Oh my gosh, I did a 10-piece myself. I feel like the rookie in the crowd. And so what I'm saying is, and you, my great leader, you know, J Love, you know what, no matter what's happening, but we still here though. We still here. Despite the racism and systemic racism and everything, we still here. And like, hey, we ain't going nowhere till we win, y'all. You know, we ain't going nowhere till we win. So I just want to say God bless y'all. Y'all have a blessed New Year's and with your families. And, you know, be safe out there. You know, hey, I'm with y'all. And we're going to keep on going in 2024.
Yeah. Kevin.
Without a doubt, Hugo Mack. I see y'all, God willing, bring Shari down there, J Love, so we could do it again for Dwayne, for Gerard. And great show. Thanks for having me and inviting me. Brother Edward, you too. Baraka. That's a beautiful name, man. You know that that's the woman that raised the Prophet Muhammad. May peace and blessing be upon him. That's a beautiful name. Anyway, I'm gonna take something that you said and I'm gonna push it along with my thing about them having to pay insurance. Regarding the Social Security, you're right. Because in 1994, 95, 94, when Clinton was elected, he appointed a lady by the name of Janet Reno. She was the Attorney General of Florida. And she made it mandatory that everybody had to work. Before, it wasn't mandatory. And then get into like how the system is, that AEDPA, that anti-terrorist bill, that's something that maybe the states can push it, but would have to come from Washington. The reason why I said that is because when you read the habeas corpus now, they also include the state 2254s, the state habeas corpus. And that bill is so racist and so biased because what they are telling people is that you have a year to learn when it took attorneys 8 to 12 years to learn, but you have a year to learn all this. So that is something that I'm gonna take that regarding the Social Security thing. You're right. How are you gonna let somebody out at the end of at the cusp and the end of their life, of their journey, and then you ain't got no housing for them, you ain't really got nothing for them. They've been working all this time in prison, no Social Security. We're working on that now. A guy by the name of Mr. Jones and the Growth Hour, we're working on that now. It's called the 13th. We're trying to get that abolished. But along with getting that abolished, I'm gonna be getting up with you because we're gonna see if we can get some of that other stuff implemented, because that's something else that needs to be pushed.
Yeah.
Because we paid off into a system that we're not seeing no type of nothing for, and we worked in it. So we paid off into a system. And the proof of that, you said, that's interesting. The proof of what you're saying is right. Is when they did that, what they call that thing, the stimulus. They said if you was working in prison, you qualified for the stimulus, and they started following the guys their money for the stimulus. You'll recognize that, but you don't recognize that. So you recognize some of the tax regarding the guys in there that's working, but you don't want to really fulfill that, like put it all the way in there. So that was interesting that you said that. But we do have examples where they, we maybe we have a show on that sometime this year. But
we will. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. And Edward, who came back at the end of the year with a bang. Yes, I'm glad that you're back. What do you want to leave us with for 2024?
And thank you. I want to say something to you, J Love, and that is, we all make mention of the amount of time we done here. You are a mother, and your son was incarcerated, and I was told when I came to prison that my mother was in prison with me. That's what all of the older guys used to take it like. They would inquire how old I was, and then they would like, do you know the burden that is on your mother? And so, and you expressed that, and not only did your child go to prison, you recognized that your child was innocent at the time. You was his alibi witness. And so you continue to be incarcerated and held accused until you feel that your child has been vindicated. So you still serving time. So I recognize that. I recognize that that's what created this space, and that's what continue to fuel this space, is your quest for justice. And there are many other mothers like you. And so none of us have a monopoly on trauma. But that's why we come here, is not to take and beat each other down, to browbeat each other, but to provoke thoughts and ideas, and not just between us, but those who are listening to us. Diane Bukowski is somebody that is very dear to me. She took and came and visited me while I was in prison on more than a few occasions. She took and put money in my account on more than a few occasions. She took and made sure that I got the newspaper that she used to write for, which was a Michigan Citizen, and then she subsequently started her own paper, which was the Voice of Detroit. And each of these papers were the only media that was even discussing juvenile lifers in the state of Michigan, period. The Detroit News, the Detroit Free Press, and nobody else was taking and talking about our plight. Anytime they did talk about us, they was repeating what the general establishment was talking about, referring to us as child murderers. Any and everything, or super predators, anything and everything that was demeaning is what they were saying about us. There was no public media, no private media, or anything that was referring to our plight, questioning why a child that doesn't have the license to drive, register to vote, able to take and sign a contract, why is this child being taken to court in an adult system where the focus is not on their interests, but is on their punishment, And so I'm very thankful to Diane, because this didn't just represent me. This represented a policy to take and support others. I made it a point that when she reached out to me, that I introduced her to the population that I was serving time with. And she began to write articles, not just on me, but she began to take and write articles on those guys too. And I helped furnish her photographs of these guys to show what they looked at like when they was a child, what they look like now, what they look like when they're on a visit with their families and their friends, so to help her to humanize them. And Diane did a very excellent job. The mainstream press, when they began to take and write and talk about us, they were borrowing stuff from her. You know, even though her media might be considered to be an outlaw media, they were borrowing ideas and concepts and information that she had written about for so long when they finally decided to begin to take and talk about this. Some of your basic civil rights organizations, I don't think I ever heard the NAACP talk about children being tried as adults in this state. I don't think they ever had a presence and a voice in this fight. It's like they don't have a dog in the fight. Okay, so so I'm very appreciative of no matter where the voice comes from, but that doesn't mean that I don't take and have a position. I would never give up my own voice, no matter who in the fight with me. I can always speak for myself. God gave us all the ability to take and articulate ourselves, and no one owes your story. You own your own story, just like you do when you get ready to get on these things and you play the music and you say, I don't own this music. Well, you don't own the story of exonerees if you're not exoneree. You don't own the story of juvenile lifers if you're not a juvenile lifer. You don't own the stories of mothers who have witnessed their children go to prison if you're not a mother. Okay? You don't own those stories. It belongs to that population, and none of us should come into the fight and take over the fight as though it belongs to me. Your fight is your fight. I may take and try to act as your alter ego, but you remain the person that is at the focus at this battle. And there's so many other things that we need to talk about other than personalities. Yes, we need to educate ourselves. And I'm very appreciative of this platform that J Love has created. It's just primarily wrongful convictions, wrongful convictions, and we have been discussing it. And what I would do, I'm encouraging anyone that consider themselves an exoneree here in the state of Michigan or anywhere else in the United States. If you haven't heard of the concept of what they call movement attorneys, become aware. Look the term up, attorneys. Okay? Here in Detroit, we have an organization called the Detroit Justice Center. These are not only attorneys that consider themselves to be abolitionists, but they consider themselves to be movement attorneys. What that means is that they represent leaders and organizations in the community. They don't go to you or you come to them and look for them to take and litigate a case, and they take and introduce you to the legal system. No, they come to you and ask you, what is it that how could they represent you? What is it that you want them to accomplish for you? And this is what I'm saying. Those of you who are exonerees, you need to get together as a group and start going to these movement attorneys organizations. Many of them are funded by funders, and the funders give them money to be able to represent you. You go to these commercial attorneys, they looking to make money off of you. And in fact, they're going to give you some money in advance, knowing that you're going to win that lawsuit. And they're going to give you some money, and the money they give you is going to be based on interest and the percentage that they get. So by the time you eventually win, you still going to be broke. There's no winning in that. So I would advise you guys to go to these attorneys that are movement attorneys, because not only would they take an argument in the court about your right to this compensation, but they also willing to go to the legislative branch of government and ask for your compensation. Okay, and these other attorneys are not willing to do that. That's not part of their job. They don't get nothing for taking and going down to the state legislative branch. They're only interested in going into court and perpetuating this. Many of them themselves are former prosecutors. Okay, many of them themselves are former state appointed attorneys who dropped the ball, or even private attorneys who dropped the ball. But now they're taking and trying to benefit off of it, But that's not to take and throw all attorneys under the bus because they're filing lawsuits on you. I don't mean to do that because I respect people's hard work, their education, and their sincerity and so forth. But you guys will be better off with taking and going and finding movement attorney law firms. And in Detroit, you have the Detroit Justice Center, the DJC. I sit on their board. I can't recommend nobody. I don't recommend nobody, but I recommend you to take and get some referrals and go there. I can't take and personally say that here, represent this person. And I would advise you guys not to go as an individual person, but go as groups. The type of things we arguing about, they will advocate for you. You have a right to your Social Security. You should say that for every day I worked in prison, I want the prevailing wages at that time that other residents of the state of Michigan or the state of New York was getting for that job. And I want my Social Security credits for that period, because you have a right to take and retire with some dignity. You shouldn't be on welfare. You shouldn't have to have a bridge card. You shouldn't have to add, you shouldn't get in a food line. All that should already be in the Social Security where you worked at. And the state should take and give you that retroactive. And so these are the type of policies that I'm talking about. So if somebody's feelings hurt, I don't mean to do that, but this is what we're talking about. I don't care, because when we get to talking about people's personalities, sooner or later we're going to cross the line and we're going to be dealing with gossip, rumor, insinuation, and it's no different than lying and slander. Okay, anytime we get into gossip, rumor, and insinuations, is no different than taking and slandering and lying. Okay, so I kind of try to stay away from that. I'd rather go after a policy than to be slandering and lying against anybody, even if it be my worst enemy. I want to be truthful. If you something, I want you. If you a spade, I want you to be a spade. I don't want to lie about it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Edward. So we have an agenda for next year and things to discuss. And we're going to be back. We're going to get into abolition. I really want to get into that deeply because I really want people to understand what it really means. And we're going to talk about the different policies and especially the Social Security, because you're not the only person. I heard another exoneree from a different state talk about that as well, about Social Security for them. So we're going to get into all of that next year. I look forward to having these conversations with you guys. And I look forward to expanding. Tonight was our first night on Instagram. We're still on Instagram right now. And yes, we are Instagram Live, and we're on Twitter Live, and we're on YouTube and Facebook. And so we're going to use all these platforms so we can get this information out, so we can reach people to educate them about what's going on and the things that we need to do to make it better. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. I look forward to 2024. Have a great holiday. And we'll see you next year, everybody, on Turning a Moment into a Movement. Oh, and the Love Gathering. It will be back next year as well.
Amen. All right.
Yeah.
God bless y'all.
God bless all y'all. Happy New Year's, happy holidays. And I look forward to seeing everybody next year.
Amen.
Barakallah. Barakallah. May Allah bless you.
Same to you.
Yes. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.